think we are on. I welcome everyone to the September 15th Planning Board meeting. Our first order of business is roll call, and tonight 6 of us are here. One could not make it, Lee Buffington. We do have comments on the 2 agenda items from her. The second item is approval of the minutes. Does anyone have corrections? Steve?
Thanks, Paul. On page 4, about 2/3 of the way down, there's the paragraph beginning, Mr. Moriarty said. Then it's the next line down, over to the right, a few extra words. A committee known as the West Over the Route 1. So the West Over the are extra words which really
Should not be there.
not be there.
Oh, okay.
It's simply known as the Route 100 Advisory Committee.
Oh, okay, I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, so that's all I have.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Anyone else? Ann?
I do, just a couple of little minor things. On page 2 at the bottom, sort of just past the right middle, her front year, off the paved part of the road and into her front year, should be yard,
Oh, yeah.
assume.
Yep.
And then on page 6, I think, and this is the change we made to the ordinance, I think we forgot to delete the last 2 lines. They are still here, but they should be deleted.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So starting with all exterior.
Designed and shielded to avoid undue glare.
That's
Oh,
right.
I see, after
That's
the,
the
after
old
sky.
language, I believe.
Yeah, after the word sky, yep,
Yeah, after the word sky, the rest of it's the old language.
I agree.
Christina, you good with that? Okay.
Okay.
Any? Josh?
I think it is page 4 after Chairman O'Clair closed the public hearing. It says Mr. Saunders asked if Ms. Buffington had comments about this. I think that was Jason.
That was me,
Not 100% sure, but
Yeah, I agree.
or one of the Mr. Records in the minutes.
Okay. All right, any others? Do we have a motion?
make a motion that we adopt the minutes as amended.
Second it?
Thank you, Bill. All those in favor of the motion? Unanimous, 6. So Carla, do you have any comments, any minor or staff site plan? Any minor change approvals?
I do, but if we could wait till next month, I can give you more particulars. It was a minor change out at Springbrook Farm, and I just took care of it on Thursday. It was to do a small addition to the store. So.
Okay, so we'll do.
But I will give you the findings and the formal.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, then the first agenda item is a public hearing for a review of a 4-lot minor subdivision to be located at 166 Gray Road, tax assessor map U19, Lot 8. The representative is David St. Clair Jr. From St. Clair Associates. Owners are Ronald Copp Sr. and Howell Copp and Jerald Copp Jr. Would you like to introduce the item? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David St. Clair Associates. Here on behalf of Ron Copp Sr., who's in the audience with us this evening, Howell Copp and Jerald Jr. They own a piece of property that is located off Gray Road. It's at 166 Gray Road, and they've owned this property for quite some time. It was originally purchased under the name of Copp Brothers Real Estate in 2005. In 2007, they worked with the town to permit this private way, which provides access to an abutter to the southwest and to the land that the town of Cumberland owns, which happens to be the ball fields. Provides for a secondary means of access off Route 100 to get those ball fields right in this area right here. Over the years, they haven't had any thoughts as to what they wanted to do with it, but recently in 2018, they have dissolved what would be considered the Copp real estate, essentially, and have transferred the land back into their names individually, kind of as a joint tenancy. Since that time frame, our office has been working with them to basically further divide the property so that each of the owners would have a piece of the property individually and not own it between the three of them. During that time frame, we've worked with the Maine Department of Transportation and have secured an entrance permit. And that entrance permit is generally in this area right here. And what that does is it provides a means of access to the parcel, but also limits the number of curb cuts that would be required, given that this parcel right here has its legal street frontage here. This parcel right here would have its legal street frontage here, and this parcel would have its legal street frontage here. We also do recognize that, we would have frontage along the existing private way where access could be had as well. At this time, we're presenting it's a 3-lot subdivision with the understanding that given the 3 owners would like to have their own piece of the property, but one of the owners, which would be this parcel B, has decided at this point in time they'd like to further divide the property, recognizing that at some time in the future, if they want to decide to do something to the parcel, they'd have to come back in front of this board to amend the subdivision plan. So they might as well just take care of it right now and put together a minimum lot size that could be used for a sale or for their own individual development. With that presentation, given that we're simply looking for a minor 4-lot subdivision, we're available. We have reviewed the CV Mahar comments as well as the town planning staff comments, and we recognize that there are some items that could be addressed, hopefully at a staff level, to bring this through to a finish. But would like to have some feedback from you folks as to where we can move from here, and hopefully gain some sort of an approval this evening. And we're available for any questions that you folks may have.
Okay, thank you. Carla, do you have any comments before we
No.
have our comments? So I'll start, I guess. There seem to be a number of questions that Sevi Mahar raised. There's waivers. In one place, there's 4 waivers, and then later there's 5 because of the Cumberland Conservation Water District.
Mm-hmm.
And you're strictly asking for commercial use, correct?
That is correct.
But later,
the
there's
property is-
comments about if the hydrological survey would be necessary if they were residential, which they can't be in that zone. So can you address, just generally before everybody else asks their questions, some of the comments and deficiencies that exist currently?
Yes, absolutely. I can go through those items for you.
I realize this is just a plan review, but there are
Correct.
some of these would have
So,
to be resolved.
We'll try to go through these items line by line. The first, I believe, item that Stephen Mahar raised was with regards to stormwater. Given the fact that we're simply looking at a 4-lot land division and we're not proposing any internal roads at this time, the private way is constructed. We recognize that whatever happens with this access point will need to come in front of the whether it's this board for a formal full site plan or a staff level site plan. It would need to have its stormwater management addressed at that time.
Could I interject for
Yeah.
a second? You said there would be no other road there. I realize there's that main road, but aren't you gonna have another road that leads to that road for the 4th lot?
So this right here, we show this on the plan simply as its location from the Maine Department of Transportation entrance permit. It is proposed in the future, but it simply is looking at this location right here where that access point needs to be had. We do recognize that should the development of this parcel come forward at some point in time at a site plan level, this right here would need to be engineered, designed out. Right now, we're just talking about having a piece of the property set aside for that access and not necessarily designed.
Okay, but
Yeah.
and excuse me if I'm missing something, but if later that did happen, you're asking for a stormwater management waiver now, would that then be changed later so that the waiver
That is-
doesn't exist?
That is correct. I mean, right now, where we are in our program is we're not doing anything that would require a stormwater design or stormwater management. We do recognize that in the future, should one of these lots come forward with either a site plan or a full site plan with you folks or a minor site plan that can be reviewed at staff level, that a stormwater management plan for that particular piece of the development would need to happen.
Okay, thank you.
So with regards to groundwater, given the fact that we're simply, again, just coming in front of you folks for a simple land division, we're not proposing anything on the property at this point in time. We do recognize that groundwater would need to be addressed at some point, but it would happen in the future as part of either a major site plan or a minor site plan that would need to come either in front of you folks or in front of the planning staff for review. With regards to the freshwater wetlands, our office has been out there a couple of different times on the parcel. If you're familiar with the area, we did not find any evidence of freshwater wetlands in that particular area. For the most part, it's all upland area. There is a small active borrow pit, which is generally located in this area right here, and they are, where they're processing their material. We were down in that area as well, and we did not see any freshwater wetlands in that area. With regards to a review of other agencies, we've secured our MDOT entrance permit. Again, it was in your packet, and it's at this location right here. Given that we're not proposing any new internal roads at this time, there's no need to go to the Maine Department of Environmental Protection, the MDEP, for any type of permits with those folks. Existing utilities, there are existing utilities out in Route 100, Gray Road. There is a water service, there's overhead power, there is a gas line that's on our side, or the west side of Gray Road. Those utilities are in existence. We have reached out to the Portland Water District to see if we can get what's considered an ability to serve. Part of the premise of getting an ability to serve letter from the water district is simply you need to be able to identify what your development is. And at this point, we don't have that identification. So, we wind up which one comes first. And in this case, we're looking simply for the land division, recognizing that at that point when we do come forward with a project on one of these lots, there will be the need to secure a formal ability to serve. But if they are able to at least send us something saying that there's water in the area and there's some access to that, we would have access to that water, that letter will definitely be forwarded to the planning office. Sewage disposal, given again that we're not quite sure what we're going to do with the lots at this point in time, we do recognize that there will be the need for a subsurface wastewater disposal design for each individual lot based on what the needs are going to be on that particular lot as part of the design. At this point, we don't know what that is, so we're asking that we're asking for that information to be looked at a later date.
All right. So, Josh, go ahead.
I guess
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm not really sure what you're here for, because if you're here for a final plan and you don't know what the lots really look like and you don't know where the road is, then we really can't,
So,
I find it hard to approve something that is just
and-
that
and
ambiguous.
Josh, and
But hold on, please.
Yep.
The other thing is that if we, even if we were to approve it, and then it doesn't look exactly like that, you would have to come back to us because it would no longer meet the subdivision that we approved. So-
And Josh, we do understand that. Like I said, we've worked with our firm has worked with the Copp family now since 2017 timeframe, because they've had some ideas as to, they'd like to divide the lot up. I mean, basically, if we were looking at what would be considered a family division of land, we could draw one line on that lot now, and in 5 years from now, draw another line on that. And then we'd have our 3 lots, if you will. Unfortunately, given the laws in that the parcel came out of the corporation in 2018, we don't have the history, given that the corporation doesn't have family members, so we don't have the history to be able to do the land division right now, because we haven't technically owned the lot for 5 years prior. So we're here now just to simply try to get this lot divided up into 3 parcels or 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not opposed to a subdivision.
Yeah.
We hear them all the time, but we need to know what the subdivision is the final, what it's supposed to look like.
So
Normally, what we get is, this is what we want the subdivision to look
Mhm.
like, and if we approve it, then that's what the subdivision has to look like.
So-
If we were to approve this, I guess on that subdivision plan, you couldn't change any of that. You couldn't make the lots any different. You couldn't make that road look any different and actually do it, because your approval would no longer be valid. You'd have to come back to us anyway.
that is correct, and we do understand that. That's why we have spent the time kind of looking at the property, and, you know, if you look at this parcel right here and this parcel in its entirety, going down through in this area right here, they equal out to be about the same area. So each of the brothers were getting, you know, the same piece of the pie size-wise, if you will.
And that's fine. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, but you said earlier you're not really sure that road is likely not going to be there. It's
This one
just
right
the
here?
start of that road.
This road right here will generally come up into this location right here when it gets to that point where it needs to be designed and constructed to provide whatever is going in this area right here and whatever's going in that area right there. If this only needs to come up to here and stop, then that's its final location. But we recognize that as part of the site plan, that's where its final design parameters are going to happen.
Carla, am I wrong? I mean,
No.
I know site plan is going to happen because they're commercial lots,
Right.
but it still would have to fit in the total subdivision plan, correct?
Yes, the memo that I included in your packet, did you all get that memo? Explained that this application is not ready for final approval, that what David had asked of me is to allow you to hear about the project, consider the waivers, give any feedback you could, and
Okay.
come back again. And tonight, I was a little surprised when he said he was looking for approval tonight, because frankly, none of the findings of fact have been met, not one. And it's just gonna take some writing on your part, David, to address each one, like you have tonight,
Mhm.
putting it in writing. I think you do have to nail down the road design, that internal road, and I think what Tom Saucier, he's an older engineer. What Dan Diffin was saying is that you didn't provide stormwater calculations for that road. We understand the lots, the use of the lots is gonna have to be looked at again. But just a very simple calculation saying, it's this wide, this long, it's gonna be paved, therefore, we anticipate needing to ditch on one side, or, you know what I'm saying? Just
I
give
do
that in-
understand what you're getting at, yes.
Give that
Yep.
information.
yep.
So I think that's where we are tonight. The waivers are a little tricky. I don't think the stormwater management one makes sense because of I just said about the road. The hydrogeologic, given that it's gonna be commercial, there's less of a concern about the groundwater getting contaminated for family use. And I think we could look at that individually as each site plan is brought forward. Typically with a subdivision, a residential subdivision, you have them show what all the soils are, and you have them do the hydrogeologic study. I'm sorry, I can't talk very well through this. And show on the plans where the nitrate plume for each house will be, where their septic system is, and where that plume will be, and making sure that it doesn't cross over property lines. You could ask for that here, but it is, as he's saying, they just don't know how large the septic systems are gonna be because they don't know what the businesses are going to be. So,
Yes, so Carla, why don't we let the rest, other board members ask questions, make comments, open the public hearing, and then move from there. I agree with Josh, I'm not sure what we would be approving, given where we are tonight. If that's helpful in any way, and perhaps there's other suggestions that would help for future planning on your part. So, does anyone else have, at this point, other questions or comments that might help for future planning? I'm sorry, yeah, Steve.
Thanks, Paul. David, do you by any chance have a slide that places this parcel in the broader VCC? Just so I can be exactly sure where it is within the district.
while he's doing that, Steve, I can tell you generally, as you're heading south on Route 100, it's after the veterinary building, if you
Yep.
know where that is.
Yep.
Right.
It's that next big open field,
Oh, okay, all right.
as you will see.
So once this does resolve, basically you got Skillens Road, Blackstrap Road, Route 100 right here. This is West Side Animal Shelter. This right here is the ball fields. And this parcel right here, this brownish section is the subject property. This right here is our parcel to the southwest. That's the gravel pit that the private way that was permitted in 2007 provides access to, as well as in here. Bud's Golf Station is in this location right here, right across the street. Caddy's is in this area, as well as Ron's Place of Business is right here.
Okay, yep, got it. And then with, looking back to the, your original slide.
Yep.
Are you actually seeking planning board approval for that, lot layout as
That-
shown?
That is correct. That is, like I said, we've spent several years working with them, and that's what they have finally landed on, and they would like to have that permitted.
Okay, so what you're, I guess what you're asking us to do is to simply approve that sketch as an eventual commercial, a minor commercial subdivision, but nothing further.
That is correct, yes. Yes, we're not looking for any type of design on these individual lots at this point in time. We're just simply looking to, create the lots so that that either one can be marketed or there can be some thought put into, what would like to set on each individual lot.
Okay, thank you.
But in all cases, it would remain as a subdivision, not individual lots.
That's correct. We recognize that once we get beyond today, it would wind up being a subdivision from here on out. We do understand that, you know, given the laws of dividing the land up, we can't do what we want to do simultaneously without it being a subdivision.
Okay, all right, thank you. Other questions or comments? Ann?
I guess I have a question.
Yep.
I don't understand, well, this is kind of for Carl, I guess. I don't understand how we can give waivers related to something so nebulous at this point.
You probably don't want to. I think the waiver requests, there's no reason information can't be provided to you next month, in which case they wouldn't need a waiver. And I think the board's always tried to not grant waivers if they can determine that they've gotten enough information to review the plan. And I think that's what you can do, but we just don't have it yet.
Carla, we have waived hydrogeological,
Yes, we have, yep.
so I'm not saying I would grant the waiver, but I would certainly be willing to listen to an argument for granting that waiver. Stormwater, certainly until we see a more final plan, that one's a hard one to waive for me. And then the other one, what's the difference between a soils investigation and a soils report that you're looking for waivers and I guess, and why are you looking for that waiver or waivers?
So as I understand it, going through the ordinance requirements, there would need to be some sort of a soils investigations and a report that would be prepared as to what the soil types are in this area. That would match in with that hydrogeologic survey that would identify where the plumes would extend off the property. Part of that survey that we're wanting to waive as the soils work would be someone going out there and actually trying to identify where a septic system might be on that property. We're not quite sure what we want to do at this point, so we're basically looking to kind of waive that at this point and catch it when it comes through as a part of a site plan.
Yeah, see, I mean, on most, don't we need to identify where septic is on a subdivision plan? Isn't that part of the subdivision plan?
No, you don't.
Okay.
You don't need, it's
like the
usually done
chapter.
because what you have is a house, and the developer wants to show where the well is going to be, where the septic is gonna be, that there's a 100-foot separation, that the plumes don't encroach onto a neighboring property. In this case, the commercial uses, it's such a big piece of land, there's such big lots that I think it will be fine. They will be able to find a place for a septic system. The soils are very sandy, gravelly out there, as you know. So there shouldn't be any trouble getting test pit locations that would work, and I don't think they're necessarily needed on this plan. Only because if you look at the large lot, is where is the septic system gonna be? Is it gonna be down by Route 100? Is that where the building's gonna be? Is it gonna be further up in the back? So I think the answer is they don't need to show that now.
Let me make one comment, then, Josh, you have something else. Yeah, in general, I certainly would support once we have more detail, a subdivision in this location, basically the way you've laid it out. But I just don't, there's so few specifics that I don't know how we could possibly approve anything tonight. Do you have anything else? If you could you identify yourself and?
Again, I'm Ron
Yeah.
Copp Senior.
Yeah.
We're not asking to build anything on this piece of property. There's 3 brothers that own it. We're just trying to divide the pieces of property. We're not intending to build that road in there, but we had to get an entrance from the MDOT. Carla didn't think we could get one because she said that we'd probably have to use the entrance off the existing road there. The state probably would not allow it. I applied for it and they said, no problem at all. I think they would have given us 2 entrances there on the two lots. But there are no plans to build anything there. We just want to divide the land, so I don't see why any of CV and Mahar's requirements concern this at all.
I guess the question,
All we
though-
want to do is divide the piece of property into three different owners, which are our 3 brothers.
does that require planning board approval to do that?
Yes, because it's a subdivision.
Because of the time frame,
So-
basically.
Right. Yeah. If they were just splitting the land out amongst themselves, all that would be required, as David would tell you, is a survey of the lots and deeds describing the meets and bounds for each parcel. But what David has brought is a subdivision plan, because I think each brother or family member would like, after this is approved, to be able to market that lot. And that lot is a subdivision lot, because it's under state law, a subdivision is a division of a piece of land into 3 or more parcels in a 5-year period. So what you're doing is creating the subdivision. Bill Longley, I think Bill Longley and I have talked with you about that. That's it. The town of Cumberland's not saying that, the state of Maine is. The town of Cumberland has a subdivision ordinance that says you need to let us know if you have water, if you have sewer, all the things that the findings of fact can't be addressed yet because we just don't have enough information. But I'm confident David can get it to us for next month.
I don't see why you need them.
I
We've owned
understand.
this property and paid taxes on it for pretty near 50 years, the family, me and my brothers. We've owned a lot of property in Cumberland that we have split up since my parents passed away, and I got 5 brothers, so we're just trying to get it into individual ownerships, so we don't have to fight to get taxes every year from each person, their share. We have no plans to develop this land. Possibly, I doubt that it would ever even get sold.
So if that-
Because I have a good-sized family, my brothers all have kids in all-sized families, and where are they gonna go in Cumberland to start a business if they want one? It's more valuable to us to keep for future use. Someday down the road, we may come to this board and wanna build something there, but not today.
That all makes sense to me, but it would seem to me that if you're gonna do that, you're putting encumbrances on the land that are actually gonna be more of a hassle. If,
In what way? I mean, the
Well,
town's gonna collect more taxes, I understand that.
yeah, but because it becomes part of a subdivision, then there's a lot of extra hoops to jump through, right?
It can't be divided legally into 3 or more lots. In this case, they're proposing 4, without going through subdivision. And I understand what Mr. Copp is saying. We've talked about this in my office and Bill Longley's office. If you wanted to take that parcel of land, and say there were only 2 of you family members instead of the 3, split it in half, you could get a survey for those parcels, get a deed prepared by an attorney, get it registered at the Registry of Deeds, and voila, no subdivision, you've got 2 lots. It's because you're creating 3, in this case 4 lots, that it triggers a state review, and the state review sets out specifically what the municipality has to look at. And
I also understood Mr. Longley to say that we could carve out the center 2 lots, which are gonna be mine, my brother's gonna own on each side of me, without causing a subdivision. But they couldn't do anything for 5 years on the outside lots. Is
So-
that true?
I'd have to have him come speak to it, because it's clear you could take the parcel and split it in half. That's 2 lots. If you wanna split that middle parcel in half and then have the 2 outlying parcels, I don't know how he would say that's not a subdivision.
He explained it, he said that there was a court case on it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, he didn't communicate that to me, he's reviewed the plans with me. I'm sorry, I think it's, you know, it's difficult, it's not gonna be, Matt just basically saying, I think you need 30 more days to pull some verbiage together to address each of the standings, the
I
findings.
know, Carla, but you told me that there should be no problem doing this. This is so simple,
Right. If I had the
and now we gotta go
information.
through another meeting or whatever, and
Yeah.
I just think it's a waste of time and money. You contacted CV Maha to get all of these things, that cost the town money. We gotta pay David a lot more money. We paid $1,000 for this application. And we can't get it done. Just divide in a piece of property. Same owners, no money exchange. Doesn't make sense to me.
It's the law. I don't know how else to say it. Bill, do you wanna weigh in on this? When they open the public hearing. Ron, honestly, I truly empathize with what you're trying to do and how simple it should be. And it's not that complicated. That's what I was saying to you, that you can do this. It's not gonna be difficult to do. Just need a little bit more information. And, David can provide that. Do you agree, David, that what we're asking for is not gonna be complicated?
I'm sure he can, but it's the cost, it keeps running up. There's
Yeah.
no wonder we don't have any commercial business in town. It costs too much to do it. To get every little step by step by step. And I understand that's the way it has to be, but it doesn't seem like it should be. All we wanna do, we're not gonna put that road in there, we just wanted to, there's 25 feet on each side of that right-of-way from me and 25 feet from my brother. We figured that was the easiest way to get more access in there rather than trying to get curb cuts. But that's the only reason for that right-of-way. We all have frontage enough to put a road in, put a driveway in. And it's not gonna, you know, all that's gonna be is a driveway, it's not gonna be a public road, I don't believe it. I don't, you know, who knows in the future, I guess, but.
Well, I think from our perspective, I mean, we can empathize, but our role, our authority is to uphold the ordinances, the way they're written. We didn't write
I
them,
understand
somebody
that.
else
I'm on
wrote
the
them.
appeals board.
So how could we possibly approve a subdivision when 16 findings of facts they're all not,
But there's nothing being built.
well,
Nothing's gonna change on the property.
but the finding of facts, if David could look at them again, every one of them is not satisfied at this point. It's not building, it's the soils and the water and the, storm water and the whole number of other parameters that have to be met for us to say, yeah, we approve. Josh?
And Carla, am I right in saying that if it was just 2 lots, just a division by right, he doesn't have to go through any of that, right?
Correct.
And they sort of remain as de facto lots without this subdivision thing hanging over them, and in some ways are less encumbered in the future, right? But the only issue here is that we've got this 5-year timeline, and it's changed hands in 2017, so we haven't even got to the first 5 years, right?
Changed hands only in the family.
I understand, yeah. So I sympathize, but I think that, it's a state law,
Yeah, and some of the findings of facts, just as a review, pollution, sufficient water, municipal water supply, erosion, traffic, sewage disposal, solid waste disposal, all of these things that we're supposed to have verification that those standards have been met, and we can't do that?
What we're
That's how we
asking
can
for is
possibly-
nothing. So none of them things are gonna be affected.
Well, that's when waivers come into play.
That's when whoever
we have
builds will have to come before you.
Yeah.
You're asking us to do 2 divisions by right within 2 years, when normally that would be done over 10 years. And so the way to get around it is to create a subdivision, but when you do that, then there's all these other things that you have to do, and in my opinion, I don't think that's what you want. If truly you want to keep your options open on that piece of land, to me, I wouldn't think you'd want it to become a subdivision, but I understand.
Well, I
that-
can see right plainly from the atmosphere here that we're better off not to.
Yes. I sympathize. It's
Well,
a
why-
state
why
law and
not-
a time thing.
Why not do what Carla suggested, and I know it's one more time to come back, but where some of these issues that we've talked about have been met, which would allow us then to evaluate it the way we're supposed to evaluate it, because we can't do that the way it is tonight. So I think, I don't see an alternative. The town planner or do you have anything you want to add to what our options are? Because I don't think we're going to get anywhere beyond where we are right now. Unless somebody else. Josh?
I would be interested, and I think the board might be interested to hear what the town
Yeah,
manager
open.
has
Okay,
to say
well,
from his perspective. 'cause
okay.
His council, Steve knows, the
Why
one
don't
that
we-
adopts the ordinances.
Why don't we do that, if that's all right, David? I'll open the public hearing at this time,
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
and then later you have the option to make further comments. So the public hearing is open, and then anybody that comes up, if they would state their name and either position or address. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Bill Shane, the town manager. I think it's unfortunate we're here tonight. I do believe Bill Longley is correct that we may not see this application again because it may be legally divided without going through subdivision. But I'll check with Bill because I was nodding the same thing when that was being explained. The bigger unfortunate thing about this is most of us know this lot, and I've worked intimately around it for many years out on Route 100. There's massive storm drains lines in front of it and on the side of it. There are massive water lines, 16-inch water mains around it. It's type A soils, which are the best type we have in Cumberland. It checks every single box for an easy subdivision application. And I really, and I know what we need for land in town, and these are the types of lots that people are looking for in commercial businesses. Unfortunately, tonight, you're put in a position that is not enviable. I wish we had a legal opinion for you tonight, and I wish we could subdivide the lots and just walk away from it. I don't think that road will probably get built. I think it's a bit of overkill for the lot, but a driveway entrance is definitely enviable with a shared access to those lots. Neither side is in a good position tonight, because honestly, I think the division of lots work for the town. I'd love to be sending you 4 tax bills. Sorry, Ron, but I would like to do that. And I'd like to be able to offer smaller lots to some of the businesses that we have that are looking to locate in Cumberland, and these are the types of lots people are using. We will work closely with David and his team. We will keep the costs down, I can tell you that, and we will try to get back here before you, so you're not put in a position of trying to feel like you're manipulating or circumventing rules. No one's asking you to do that. I think each one of these lots would come in through site plan. Each one of these lots would have stormwater plans. Each one of these lots will have very simple wastewater disposal plans. And the water most likely will be served off of Route 100, where we have a more than ample water main. So I'm sorry, Ron. I wish we had a chance to prepare ahead of time. I really wish that it was a little easier. These folks have no choice. The staff has no choice. We're following the rules, and sometimes the rules don't quite fit this application, this type of application. I appreciate what you did for the town when you helped us and you got us that back access to the ball fields. That has been huge, been a huge safety net for us, and a much better access for a lot of people to those ball fields. So I'm sorry it didn't work. I'm sorry that you have to come back, but I promise you we'll work with your team, and we'll get it back here, and we'll get it in the right shape it has to be, so these folks can sit in front of you and say, okay, this makes sense. And no one was targeting you, because I was already doing the math on the tax bill, sorry, but it's all before April 1st, so this is all good. So Thank you for the opportunity. I think this is great for economic development for West Cumberland. I think it's going to be a very nice application when you see it next time. And we will work with our team and our review engineers to make sure we can check all the boxes for you, and the findings will be ready, and it'll be ready to go next month for sure.
Thank you, Bill. The public hearing is still open. Anyone else have any comments? Seeing none, I will close.
Members
I'll
of
close
the
the
planning
public
board.
hearing. and
My
bring-
name is David St. Clair. I live at 34 Forest Lane. I realize that I'm also the applicant's representative, but I do recognize that the commercial development is absolutely needed in the west end of town. And, you know, I do look forward to having this project move forward when it does, so that we can increase our commercial development in the west end of town to open that village commercial district up where it needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will close the public hearing, bring it back to the board, and you certainly now, as applicant, have the right to make other comments, but could we start with Jason? Go ahead.
I hope that it does come back. I empathize with the situation tonight, but I hope this does come back and maximize what we can do on this lot for the town. It's absolutely what we need more of in this town is more small commercial lots, and so I empathize. I hope that you divide it up and it comes back and we have more small businesses in this town, so that's it.
Thank you. Steve?
Thank you, Paul. I don't want this meeting tonight to end on a down note, and I would say to you, David, and to Ron as well, that I'm very enthused about this sketch that you presented tonight. I think it has enormous potential for the town, and as has been explained, it certainly fits the site very well, and ultimately I think it would make a very, very nice subdivision. The problem is that you're asking us to approve a division of land, but without any other of the things that without the information that we need to actually go forward and give that official approval. We just can't look at a map and say, those lines look good, you're on your way. We have to go through a series of factual findings as specified, and so that's where we're hung up, basically. But I don't want to leave the impression that I have any negative feelings about what you're presenting. I don't. Just the opposite. I think it's a very good idea.
Thank you, Steve. Bill?
I want to say I love it, and I do hope you come back next month and we are able to get on with this. I think it's exactly what we're looking for out there.
Thank you, Bill. Anyone else? David, any other comments you'd like to make?
We do appreciate the time that you folks have had to give us a little bit of feedback. We're pointed hopefully in the right direction now, hoping for a little bit different outcome, but we do recognize that, you know, you need to have a little bit more information, and we'll do our best to get that back so we can be back on the agenda, whether it's next month or in 2 months. But we'll work through staff and try to iron out everything and put our package together.
Good,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Do we need a motion?
Yeah, we need,
To
do we want to table it at this point? I make a motion that we table the review of a 4-lot minor subdivision, tax assessor map U19 lot 8.
Second it?
Second. Any discussion on the motion? Bill seconded it. Christina? Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So that brings us to the second agenda item, which is is related to the daycare center and nursery school at the church. I'm a member of the church and on the finance committee there, so I will recuse myself. The co-chair, Jason Record, will introduce the item and lead the discussion.
Okay, so item number 2, recommendation to the town council on proposed amendments to chapter 315 zoning, section 21, town center district, B12 daycare centers and nursery schools of the Cumberland Code to increase the number of children allowed from 20 to 28. And Carla, anything?
Just to clarify that this is a recommendation the planning board will make to the town council to increase the number of children. You are not required to do anything more than that.
Carla, in other zones where this use is allowed, is there the same number limitation, or is that, or does that differ by zone, or?
It differs by the way that the daycare is classified. We have daycare centers, we have daycare homes, we have nursery schools. Each of those are licensed by the state differently, and they have different definitions in our ordinance. So it's not as black and white as to say, yeah, all the other zones in town allow 30 kids, why can't they go up to 28? It's not that simple. But this is clearly something that is doable, and you know.
Well, just so you're thinking about it as they make their presentation, you know, looking at section 315.47, there are requirements based on the per child number. And I guess my question is, they're looking for 28, and so it makes a sense that they're looking for a zoning change up to 28. But I guess my question is, why isn't that 50? Or, you know, why are we setting it if there are other requirements that kind of hold that number down or ensure that the property can handle that number? Why do we have an arbitrary number regardless? But that, just so you're thinking about my thought process.
And is there an answer to that? Do you have an answer to that at this point?
Not really beyond what I said before. It really comes down to how the state classifies these different types of care facilities.
Mhm.
And
Certainly the square footage, the state determines the basic square footage.
yeah.
Well, we'll let Al speak, and maybe we'll learn more. So, Al Schuler, please.
Not likely to learn a lot, but I hope this won't be as complicated as the last one. So, yeah, I'm Al Schuler. I'm the moderator of the Congregational Church in Cumberland, and we've had a child care center there for a long time. I guess 12 years ago, the one that was formerly there, the operator decided to retire, and our office manager, Susan Novak, had always wanted to do child care work and said, I want to open a new center there. So that's been there for 12 years. This limitation to 20 children in the zoning ordinance has been there from the beginning, and we don't know where the number came from. I mean, we talked to the town, they said you can have 20 kids. The state at that time said, well, you know, the facility is large enough to accommodate 28. The state would have no problem with the larger number. And last year, we felt a little crowded because we were trying to accommodate the school district, which had instituted a free pre-K program, and we wanted to provide child care for children enrolled in that program during the day when that program was not in operation. And so we wanted to go over the number on at least one day a week. I know it's not an urgent problem. We're not full this year. We think this is an odd year, but we would like to be able to go up to the number that the state would let us have, and that's why we've made the request.
And one of the paragraphs in Al's letter says, state licensing authorities have advised that our facilities can accommodate 28 children, and that the state would approve a revision of our current license to allow us to care for this number. Of course, if the town were to approve our request, we would continue to adhere to state-mandated child-teacher ratios. Does this create a uneven playing field, sort of, for businesses that would be in other zones? Potentially?
I don't think so.
No.
Al, can I ask you?
Sure.
So when you went to 20, when you were at 20, did the state come in and say, at that point, you know, I guess my question is this, does the state always play a role in determining the maximum number of children in that process?
Yes, they would license us at the moment for 20, but they say that's only because the town limits you to 20, and they would be willing to license us for 28. So if you approve the zoning change, we still have to go to the state and
Again, and say,
and get the license revised, yes. But, I mean, they're the basic agency for licensing childcare facilities. I don't know, you know, I've wondered why this issue is addressed in the zoning ordinance. I mean, your concern is traffic and things like that, and I think that, you know, there's no traffic problem with parents dropping off kids in the morning, and we got a big parking lot, and, picking them up at different times in the afternoon. I don't think that the things that are traditionally addressed by zoning ordinances pose any problem with the larger number.
Okay. Public hearing? Anyone? Seeing none, close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Steve?
Jason, I just want to mention Al and Paul, I am also a member of the church, but I'm not in a position of leadership or financial responsibility, nor do I have any children of an age who would be attending the school. I don't feel that I have a conflict of interest, and so I'm prepared to address this on the merits.
Yes, and I would like to make the practically identical disclosure. I am also a member of the church. I have no connection to the child care center, and I have no children or grandchildren of an age that would benefit from it, so I feel I can make a perfectly unbiased decision.
Bill?
I'd like to have the record note that we don't believe that either one of these two have a conflict and they can participate.
Sure. Sounds good. Anything else?
Again, I guess my comment based on my earlier comment and what he said is my preference for a recommendation to the council would be to say that we simply remove the limit of any number subject to section 315-47, which does place a limit based on the size of the lot, and it requires one off-street parking space for each employee and volunteer not living at the site, and it also gives the planning board and board of adjustment appeals may attach additional conditions directly. So I guess my feeling is we have plenty of opportunity to restrict the size on a case-by-case basis, and I'm not sure why we're restricting the size just at a flat rate, especially if the state is going to come in and say you can have 25. So if the state comes in and says you can have 50 and they have plenty of parking and they can meet all the other conditions that we might think they need to meet, I'm perfectly happy if they have 50. So that would be my only change, is to remove the 28 and make some language in there about state licensing and section 315-47.
I would agree with Josh that 28 seems sort of arbitrary, and if there's another larger building next door, you know, and they want to have 30 kids and the state allows such a thing based on square footage, then our 28 is a ceiling that is arbitrary. So I sort of would agree that it's not something that we should be policing, and we should rely on the state's rules for children per square foot, is I assume what it comes down to, and children per teacher. Is that right? That there's all those sorts of, so I think I would agree with Josh and change what we do here potentially.
I have
Bill?
a question for Carla. If we decide not to go along with the 28 to make it open-ended, since this was a public hearing, would we have to advertise another public hearing with the right wording?
It's a recommendation, as they
Okay.
started out, that's all you're doing, is making a recommendation. So
okay.
the recommendation can be that you support the change to 20, from 20 to 28, but would further recommend to the town council that the town look at the different classification levels and the restrictions on number of children, and perhaps with the idea of moving towards one simple definition for daycare.
Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think the town council ordinance committee had really, I thought they felt the same way. They thought the number was arbitrary and basically just passed on what they thought was the correct number. So there was no science behind that number other than the request. So if you want to leave that up to the maximum level allowable by the state, that would be fine, because I think the council was ready to go to a higher number if required, because again, it's only in the town center district zone this applies. So this, they felt, was a commercial district. They felt with everything going on, it was the right thing to do. And I think they concur exactly with the sentiment of the board here tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Steve?
I was going to mention the council ordinance committee before Bill spoke. If we were to make a positive recommendation tonight, this might very well go back to the ordinance committee for a broader view of the maximum capacity of daycare facilities town-wide, as opposed to just the town center district. That would be in their discretion. They're in no way bound by our recommendation. So at this point, I'll move that the board favorably recommend to the council that Chapter 315, Section 21B12 of the Cumberland Code be amended to increase the number of children allowed in daycare centers and nursery schools from 20 to 28.
With no modification.
Second, Tom's here. He'll pass it on to the council. We've sort of made our recommendation known. Whatever we pass is. So this gets them what they need immediately, and then if the council wants to take it up, the council knows how we feel.
Okay.
So I'll
I'm
second.
sorry, I have a question. So we aren't going to say the maximum allowed by the state?
I don't think we need to do that in this recommendation to the town council, because we have a member from the town council who's here. And if the town council wants to then say, we're gonna do something broader, they can do something broader. So I'm perfectly fine. I mean, I believe that's the way it ought to go, but tonight, I'm perfectly fine just recommending we go to at least 28, so the applicant can do what the applicant wants to do, since they're the one taking the initiative. And the council knows how we feel, and if they feel like following up and going to something more broad, they will. Is my opinion.
And it's only a recommendation. They can take it or leave it or change it. So I think
Personally, I'd like to put on the record of what we really want to do and what we think ought to be done, which is to, I personally like to open it up. Bill had a comment.
I think Steve Moriarty makes a great distinction that the council did not wrestle with any of the other districts. And they basically looked at the TCD, the ordinance committee looked at that very closely and thought it was commercial zone, and this made sense. So I agree with you, Jason, that if it would be important to hear what the majority of the planning board believed was the right number, and I would probably shy away from the number, because I think the council struggled. They basically said, this is a no-brainer, let's help and let's make it happen. But they couldn't understand the number either, so they're in the same place as you are. If the state allows 32 tomorrow, I'd hate to have you guys come back for 4 more people, and that doesn't make a lot of sense for any of us. So that's why I like the more general language, just the maximum allowed by state licensure. So it only applies to the TCD district too, because the other opens up a whole bunch of other issues that we'll have to deal with, from traffic to everything else. So we just don't, I love the Toddle Inn, but I don't want to see it in 14 neighborhoods. So we want to be careful with that, and that's, I think, the next issue we'd have to wrestle with.
If you're willing to amend your motion?
It's a motion on the table in a second. How does that
I
work?
don't think they need to.
We'll see.
I think it just goes to the council.
I don't think we need to either, but I don't think it does any harm not to have the number in there either.
Couldn't you pass two motions? I mean, could
Wait,
you,
wait.
recommend this requested change be granted, and then a second motion that just says the sense of the planning committee is that perhaps no number is needed, and we urge the council to look at that? I don't know.
Not without a
Just a
public
thought.
hearing, I don't think.
I mean, again, I get, my feeling is our recommendation is simply us up here speaking to the town council.
Well, there's a motion on the table and there's a second. and
Right,
Steve-
but we're in discussion, so
Yep.
that's okay. He hasn't decided to amend it, so we're discussing, and I guess my feeling is if he doesn't amend it, I'm okay voting for this motion, because I have full confidence that the rest of this discussion is going to make it to the town council with the same weight as if we passed a motion that said there was no number and that was our recommendation.
Right,
So
okay.
that's my feel, I mean, and I'm okay with a different motion too,
Okay.
but that,
But we're here, what we're hearing here is nobody knows why it was 20. You know, that's like, we just don't know. And I think we know now the way we feel about it, and we know how the town council feels about it. And so I hate to see the 28 stay in there, and someday people will say, well, why is the 28 there? You know, if for some reason they didn't change it. So I think we should recommend what we think is optimal.
So we got two choices, pass the 28 or vote it down and then make another motion to say comply with the state
correct.
rules.
As I see it, that is a correct statement.
Okay.
We have a motion on the floor.
There's a motion. All in favor of amending it as written, or recommending it as written to change the verbiage from 20 to 28? All in favor?
Yeah, yeah, okay, but, and I know that Christina will put language into the minutes.
All opposed? Unanimous? Passes.
This is the strangest planning board I've ever been to.
Would you like to come back, run the show?
Thank you, Al. So that ends the agenda items. The last thing is administrative matters, new business, and I don't know of any. Does anyone else? No? So,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
second, all those in favor? Thank you.